I often think of people's lives as rivers, and sometimes these rivers run really close to each other. I grew up until I was 4 in Utica, New York, upstate New York, and then we moved to California, the San Gabriel Valley. Well, Utica was the exact opposite of where we were used to, which is Vietnam, Cambodia. So you could just imagine upstate New York in terms of the weather and even the people. But we were able to find my uncle who's living out here, and he was able to bring us out. I just came back about 9 months ago. I was in Virginia, Washington, D.C. for 2.5 years.
What were you doing in Virginia?
I was working. I was working in children's media. I worked at PBS Kids, but I was also really ready to move. In LA, I call it the ceiling feeling. And it was a particular feeling when the sky turns from orange to purple during the evening. And I remember just driving along the tube and seeing that, and it kind of felt like I was living in a dome in Los Angeles, and it was kind of this oppressive feeling, and it made me feel really stuck. And I got the sense like, I need to get out of here, I need to go. One story, yeah, I was in Utica, New York still. I was in preschool. I think I was the only Asian kid in the entire preschool. And all of the kids, they would nap, but I never napped for some reason. So while all the kids were sleeping, I was waiting for my dad to pick me up. I remember looking at the clock, and I couldn't tell time yet. And then I got this feeling like, oh, he's not coming. He's not gonna come to pick me up. So I remember I just put my head down and I cried. I just cried, and I don't think anyone knew that I cried because I was trying to hide it. And then my dad came and picked me up later. My family has always been really conscious of time, and so have I. You know, my grandpa, he would be someone where, like, and you know, the old kitchen stoves, they would have like the time on the top, and sometimes that thing would reset again, like the power would go out and go back on, and then he would come out at like 3 in the morning, and every time you press the button, it'd go beep, 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 beep. So in the 3 in the morning, I just hear beep, 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 because he was really fixated on time. I don't know if it's actually something related to my grandpa when he escaped from Cambodia. When they tried to go back to his family, he couldn't find them again. They were just kind of lost. And I feel like in that way, like, time is so important to them. And I wouldn't be surprised if I've inherited some of that. I've been trying to figure out boundaries. That's something that I have thought a lot about in terms of, I want to figure out how to live in a world without boundaries and without borders. But I feel like in the past few months, intimacy and connections with people are very important to me, but I have to also respect their boundaries. I think that's been really hard, about trying to kind of renegotiate that when I'm really trying to connect with people and maybe even connect with myself, but there's some kind of misalignment that's been going on. So I've been feeling that a lot lately, and it's made me question my motives, my intentions, and that's been a struggle. Yeah, that's been really hard. I've been reading a good amount of like Buddhist scripture the past few years, and one is, you know, really trying to meet people where they're at and understand where they're at. You can't use the same method or connect with one person to connect with another person, and you also can't use the same method with one person at a different time. You know what I mean? Like the same method that you would use to connect with someone 3 months ago might not be what they need now, and you either, you know. So there's a lot of renegotiation, and there's a lot of wisdom, you know, that you have to kind of cultivate to get there. And that's really difficult. That's so hard, and can like really, you know, mess with your mind a bit. Last time I cried was, I think it was August 3rd of this year. A relationship of mine had just ended. I was kind of showing my friend like a text message, and she just said, "Milo, you're really mature." I really needed to hear those words then, for someone to say, "Hey, I can see that you're trying, and the work and the thought and the compassion that you've tried to have and you've worked on these past few years is manifesting right now." And that was really important for me to hear. I think I would wake up around 7:30 in the morning. I would make coffee. I'd be able to sit on my couch and meditate. It's like the breathing that creates the space that you kind of slowly enter into and like get your bearings, you know. Then I think I'd go for a run. maybe meet up with a friend to write. We'd go to a garden. I would go to a museum.
All on the same day?
Yeah, that would be the same day. If it's like a full perfect day, that sounds fantastic to me. I would probably try to do like a sound bath meditation in the evening. Yeah. You know, I've been by myself for a while, or the image I've been thinking about is I've been an island for a while, which comes with a lot of benefits to it. A lot of freedom, a lot of self-reflection, but at the same time, there's this feeling like, have I just become so used to being an island that I will remain that? And that's something that I've maybe been fearing as well. But also there's like this sense that when I was talking earlier about how hard it is to kind of like connect with people at the right time, that I am alone, the more that I am an island, the harder it becomes. I feel like I've become really attuned to what it is that I'm looking for and what feels right, that so many things don't feel right in a way. It's like things become much more specific. So let's say I'm looking for a partner. I've become more specific in what I'm looking for, and I can't really describe what that is. It's more of like intuition and instinct, but I know it's become more specific. Sometimes it takes much more effort for me to not be an island. Inside, maybe there's like this core of my being that will kind of never be satisfied. I guess maybe it's like this feeling like, oh, no one's really gonna get it. Maybe no one is going to take the time to like really get at the core and who I am and like the totality of me. What if no one is willing to do the work to see me in that way? When I find someone, I get really excited about the idea of like finding new and unique ways to support and care about them and to perceive the totality of who they are, because I think that's really exciting. You know, you can just really dig into like one person. There's so many layers, and it's constantly shifting. You're going to be constantly shifting and changing, and it's really exciting for me to like have to kind of shift with them and like be aware of how we're changing as people. I get the sense that I can deeply love you, and then let's continue this. I start to gather more information, you know, gather more data. Yeah, but it's like the data of feelings. There's this person I was on a date with, and then we were just walking, and then the sun was coming through, and it was hitting this like painted glass, and then she was like bathed in purple, and I went, that's a data point. You know, that's so much data. And I was like, that's just the data of feelings, of emotions. And I was like, oh, wow. The energy or whatever it is telling me something really important here that's feeding into this. I've found that always trying to chase those moments ends up having diminishing returns, because then maybe you're just kind of constantly disappointed, or you're just like, wait, that feeling that I had and I'm still trying to chase it. It's kind of exhausting. You know, it's like it comes up more organically, and maybe sometimes it's kind of in those quieter moments now, and those serendipitous moments, those moments that surprise you. Just you hopefully being more attuned to it and being like, oh, this is important, whatever this is. And it could be like the smallest thing, but you're like, that is as significant and as beautiful as something ostentatious. I'm sure someone asked how you're doing, and I went, I'm doing okay, when I wasn't. I'm sure that was pretty recent. Like a few months ago, where like a friend texted something that hurt me, I thought it was pretty insensitive. She apologized and she asked if I was okay, and I said, hey, you're good. I did tell her initially, hey, that hurt, and then she apologized like a day later, but I don't think I had fully like recovered from the hurt. The other option, right, would be, oh, we should talk more about this and kind of get into it, but that is not necessarily something I'm great at, so sometimes I will lie, like, I guess I could call that a lie. I'm less good about...
Less good.
I'm less good. I'm not as good at like confronting people about when I'm hurt. I'm better at apologizing for my actions, but I'm not as good telling people, oh, that really hurt me. The fact that I told my friend that hurt was already a lot for me to do. And I could see that coming just like being a kid and being the youngest. Expressing anything other than like being neutral could be threatening for me. It could result in, you know, getting hit, getting yelled at. It's like dangerous almost to like show emotion, both mentally and sometimes physically, right? I will be very cautious in expressing my emotions with someone. I want to be accurate in terms of how I feel. If I react too quickly, like I'll be like, oh, that wasn't actually accurate to how I felt, how I wanted to say what it is. You sometimes need to take a step back and to like be able to express, this is how I feel. Being an actor, like that's something that I've kind of let go of. I think that's one of the reasons why I was like, oh yeah, I'm happy to move out of LA.
How did it start?
It was in 5th grade. So my friend Steven, in Mr. Lee's class, you could either do a book report or you could create a skit. So he decided to do Dr. Dolittle. He cast me as like the bad guy, King Jolly Ginky. When it was time, it was like, oh, this like voice came out and this character came out for me. That was like, whoa, who's this person? And it was like really invigorating. It was a space where I felt like, oh, I could express myself, like all of this like energy and all of this like the totality of me, right? This is a space in which all of that is actually lauded for, except instead of being, suppressed. I think it was also a great way for me to kind of express myself and to be able to connect with other people too. Just have that level of intimacy to really kind of see someone and like connect with them almost like on a spiritual level. That was really exciting for me, and to really build this world with other people on stage.
You're kind of like forced to get in sync. That
Right.
connection that we might not always get from outside of theater.
Thinking about it now, like, I mentioned earlier, like, oh, sometimes conflict can be really hard for me, but in scenes, there's always a ton of conflict, but you've made an agreement to say, oh, we're gonna get into a fight, right? We're gonna get into this emotional thing, but we're gonna be okay after. And I think maybe in real life, you don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
You go into a fight with someone, you're like, I don't know if we're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
We might be fucking done
Never
after
gonna
this.
talk to that person
Yeah,
ever again.
we might not talk for months if it's like a family member, right? Like we just might not, and I'm just gonna carry that weight. But in a scene, you're just like, we're gonna fight, it's gonna feel real, right? And I'm gonna bring my experience, you're gonna bring your experience, we're gonna connect. Afterwards, we'll grab some coffee, we'll grab a drink, we'll eat and we'll talk about how
Hug it
fucking
out.
cool that was, yeah.
Would you say you have really fully let go of that?
No, I mean it bleeds into my other work. In some ways, I've taken that work and made it a bit more internal. Like doing a lot of writing the past few years is still very much an expression and still very much like a way of like, oh, my voice. And it's possible that that specific journey of acting is done, but it's become an indelible part of like my creative journey. I wouldn't say that I'm mad at anyone. I have more sorrow than anger. I don't experience anger much anymore. I often just feel sadness and blueness about loss of a connection. I don't know if that means forgiveness is the right word either. I guess there are certain relationships that I'm looking forward to kind of are rivers running close again. And what I mean by rivers is I often think of people's lives as rivers. And sometimes these rivers run really close to each other, right, for a period. And sometimes, maybe it becomes one river, right? And you can't tell, wait, is this mine? Is this yours? Right? But at some point, then it splits again. And maybe we go on our own separate ways, but we've been very much affected by each other. And maybe there's also a possibility that our rivers will run close again. There are some relationships in which I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.